A torch flickers in the wet dark, its flame shivering like a soul unsure of its place in this world. Shadows lurch across the stone, long and crooked, cast by walls that have never seen daylight. The corridor exhales slowly, like something half-dead, moisture pooling in the cracks, moss creeping like rot over a corpse, and the quiet drip of water echoing like a distant heartbeat. The air is foul with old memory. Mold clings to every surface. The taste of iron, blood, ancient and fresh, rises in the back of the throat. This place does not lie beneath the castle. It lies beneath time itself, beneath mercy, beneath the threshold where stories end and forgetting begins. Each footstep lands with the weight of judgment. Each echo is a bell for the condemned. Somewhere behind, the kitchens bustle with boiling pots and the slap of butchered meat. But here, in the bones of the earth, the only meat is what clings to ribs. The only warmth is borrowed breath. Beyond a door no servant names, a rusted gate yawns, not opened by hand, but by the memory of hands, by routine, by ritual, and then the stench. It hits like a blow, not just filth, but despair, a stew of sweat, waste, urine, and rot. The kind of smell that can blister the eyes, that crawls into the soul and stays. Shackles dangle like pendulums from the walls, each one a tale, a scream, a plea. Some swing gently, touched by unseen wind. Others are taut, attached to limbs too weak to resist, but not yet free of suffering. A cough rattles from the dark, a sound dry as bones scraping together. Then a whisper, cracked with fever, floats upward in a forgotten tongue. It is not meant to be heard. It is meant to be released. Like smoke from a dying flame, light spills down in slices from a grate above, where laughter flickers from the feasting hall. The wine flows. The music swells. No one speaks of what lies beneath their dancing feet. Time here does not move. It erodes. Faces blur. Names are swallowed. The dungeon does not kill. It dissolves. Bootsteps. The jailer arrives like a storm without wind. His gait is slow, deliberate. Keys clatter at his hip, metallic, hollow, like wind chimes forged by devils. He is silent. The dungeon speaks for him. One gesture and two guards drag a boy forward. He is small, bones barely caged in skin, toes blackened by cold. His tunic is too large, soaked in sickness, clinging to his frame like regret. His eyes dart like trapped birds, until they land on her. In the corner she sits curled into herself, muttering to a doll long since fallen apart. Her hands cradle it gently, as if it breathes. Hair once braided, now mats against her cheeks. Once a midwife, once the one they summoned when life began, now abandoned here where life ends. Her voice cuts through the cold, not loud, not screaming, but clear. They'll take your name first, then your light. The boy blinks. He doesn't cry. There are no tears left, only hunger, only a gnawing and animal fear that crawls through his chest like a rat. The jailer says nothing. He doesn't need to. The walls do the speaking. They whisper stories of knights who screamed for their mothers, of traitors who betrayed only to survive one more day, of innocents who sang lullabies to the bones around them. Chains are tightened, straw is kicked into corners, the boy is left in darkness, and the bell tolls. Midnight. Above ground, wine goblets clink, lovers kiss, a roast is carved. Below, silence stretches thin over suffering, like skin over bone. The dungeon sleeps with one eye open, its dreams full of teeth and rust. Its breath never slows. It waits. A rat scurries across the boy's bare foot. He doesn't move, doesn't flinch. He is learning the rhythm of fear, the heartbeat of the pit. Somewhere far off, the midwife begins to hum. A lullaby, crooked and broken, meant for no one and for everyone. The walls hum with her, the stones remember. They always remember. In this place, light is a rumor, but above dawn threatens the horizon, and somewhere, in the bowels of this waking grave, a name still clings to the boy's tongue, his own. he will hold it a little longer, just a little longer. Candle smoke curls through iron bars, mingling with the scent of mildew and the sharp tang of rust. Somewhere, water drips, a slow maddening rhythm, like a heartbeat on the edge of forgetting. A rat scurries across a tattered blanket, and the prisoner beneath it does not stir. This was once a wine cellar, its vaulted ceilings echoing with laughter and clinking goblets. Now the only echoes are groans. The bishop ordered its conversion after the rebellion of 1278, when too many voices called for grain instead of God. Stone by stone, it became a tomb for the living. A woman sits with her back to the wall, clutching a rosary made of bone. Her fingers bleed where the cord has worn grooves into the skin. She prays not for forgiveness, but remembrance. Her name is Yestabel. Once she sang for the duke's court. Her voice lifted hearts. Now her voice is hoarse, her tongue cracked from thirst. Her crime, knowing too much Latin. The gaoler enters, face hidden by a hood, stiff with sweat. He places a bowl near her cell, thin gruel, crawling with flies. No words pass between them. He glances at the noose hanging from the beam overhead. He glances, then turns away. Through the stone slit above, rain begins to fall. Not a cleansing rain, just cold, indifferent. Yestabel raises her face to it, mouth open. Her lips tremble, not from pain, but from memory. She hums a melody beneath her breath. It was once a lullaby, now it sounds like mourning. In the next cell, a man carves something into the wall with a spoon. Not words, just tally marks. Hundreds, maybe thousands. A life measured in scratches, and still the candle burns low, casting shadows like ghosts. They came at night. Hooded, armored, silent. They took the scholars first, those who wrote, translated, remembered. Men and women, whose only weapon was parchment. One by one they disappeared into the bishop's dungeons. A war was being fought, not on fields, but in ink and thought. Yestabel remembers the moment her cell door closed. The sound of the iron lock was louder than any scream. She had been teaching a boy the Lord's Prayer, not in French, not in the local tongue, but in Latin. It was a quiet act. Harmless, she thought. Until it wasn't. Now her world is 6 paces wide, 7 paces long. The stone floor is always damp. A fungus blooms in the corners like bruises on dead flesh. Each day folds into the next like pages glued together by mold. She speaks less now. Words are heavy things, and there is no one to carry them. Once she was adorned in silk, her hair braided with ribbons the color of wine. She sang for kings, but more than that, she understood the Psalms, understood them in the language they were born in. That was her pride, and her undoing. There are no windows here, only the narrow slit that lets in the sky. Through it, she measures time by cloud and crow, rain and silence. She hears weeping sometimes, not from her own throat. Others, newer prisoners, their voices haven't broken yet. One night, the gaoler lingers, a moment longer than usual. His hands tremble as he pours the gruel. He does not speak, but in the trembling, something is said. He too is a prisoner, shackled by silence, by duty, by fear of being seen with sympathy. Yestabel meets his eyes, just once. They are not kind eyes, but they are human. He leaves the spoon this time. It's cracked and worn but whole. Later she kneels at the back wall, beside the tally marks of the man next door. With the spoon, she scratches something, not a name, not a word, a single musical note, one, carved deep into the stone. She hums again, that same lullaby, softer this time, like the breath of a mother over a sleeping child. Somewhere down the corridor, a prisoner stops weeping. The silence grows warmer. Rain comes harder the next morning. A wind howls through the narrow slit, bringing with it the scent of smoke. From the upper world, there are whispers of unrest again. Another harvest failed. The bishop has doubled the tithes. Bread costs what a man earns in a week. Hunger speaks louder than sermons. Yestabel does not hear these whispers, not directly, but the guards are tense. The gaoler curses under his breath, a distant bell tolls, once, twice, then again broken by the wind. The prisoners feel it. A shift. Like the moment before a storm breaks, when the air thickens and even breath feels dangerous. The man next door stops carving. Instead he speaks. How many days has it been? His voice is rough, unused, not meant for beauty, but it is a voice, real. Yustabel doesn't answer. Not at first, then quietly, as if confessing, I stopped counting after the rats began answering me. A laugh, sharp, surprised, then silence again. But this silence is different. It's not empty, it listens. That night, a child is brought in, thrown into the cell across from Yustabel's. No older than 10, shivering, barefoot. Her hair is matted with rain, her wrists scraped raw from rope. She does not cry, she stares, silent, hollow. Yustabel crawls forward, pressing her hands to the bars. What's your name? She asks, voice like torn silk. The child doesn't reply. But when the gaoler brings the gruel, the child does not touch it, just watches it steam in the cold, as if the warmth might carry her away. Yustabel breaks her bread in half, a small piece, but offered through the bars. The gaoler says nothing. Something is shifting. The candle flickers, almost dies, then steadies. Yustabel begins to speak aloud each night, not to the gaoler, not even to the child, to the stone, to the darkness, to God, perhaps, or what remains of him in places like this. She speaks of things she remembers, orchards in spring, silk gowns rustling like wind through wheat, the laughter of court jesters, the taste of honey on warmed bread. She speaks of her mother's hands, of songs learned by firelight, of the boy who once asked her why Latin sounded like rain. The other prisoners listen. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they smile. Mostly, they survive. Then one morning, it happens. The gaoler doesn't come, not for the first hour, nor the second. The candle burns low, then out. In the dark, the prisoners wait. The man next door calls out. No answer. The child begins to sob. Then from above, a sound. Not footsteps, not a door, a scream. Then firelight floods the corridor. Not from torches, from outside. From the slit, Yustabel sees it, smoke curling not down into the prison, but up into the sky. The city is burning. The silence is no longer silent. It is filled with bells, with clashing steel, with the fury of the forgotten. The rebellion has returned. Yustabel presses her lips to the stone, not in fear. In farewell, she sings. Not the lullaby, a hymn, one not heard in these halls since they were lined with wine, one in Latin. The child joins her quietly, note by note. The candle is gone, but the melody carries, through smoke, through iron, through centuries. And so the cell becomes a cathedral, and the darkness, a choir. A feather drifts on cold air. It falls, unseen between stones, older than memory. It lands without sound, joining centuries of dust and regret. Above, the abbey breathes in silence, not peace, but the silence of things too dangerous to speak aloud. Brother Anselm does not look back. His robes, damp at the hem, carry the scent of her prison with them. Mold, rot, wine, sorrow. He climbs the spiral with hands trembling, not from age, but from something older, deeper. The echo of her whisper clings to his skin. Is it Easter yet? Outside, the bells cry matins, calling monks to prayer. But within the walls, no one hears them clearly. The abbey's stones absorb sound like sins. The high arches, once filled with song, now hold their breath. It is a place of devotion, and of forgetting. Years ago she had a name that echoed through these halls. They spoke it with pride. Once, Sister Alira, a voice like spring rain, soft and clean. But that name is dust now. Her body remains, but her name does not. The ink that bore it has faded. The scrolls were washed, the stories rewritten. Only Anselm remembers the sound of her laughter. He stumbles in the cloister garden, where the snow has melted too early. Patches of black soil grin between crooked stones. He remembers that garden, a summer long gone. She once chased bees there, barefoot, daring the sting. The monks scolded her. She laughed. He had laughed too. Now the garden is silent. The bees are gone. The stingers remained. A crow lands on the edge of the well, its beak tapping the mossy rim. It watches him. Anselm looks away. He knows the stories. Crows see what the eyes of man cannot. They remember. They mark the living for the dead. Inside, the abbey breathes on. The abbot greets Anselm with narrowed eyes. No words, only a slight tilt of the head. A silent question. Did she speak? Anselm shakes his head. The abbot nods. He turns away, robes sweeping the dust, like forgotten penance. They do not speak of her, not in the daylight, not in the refectory, not even in the confessionals. To name her is to unseal the wound. She had asked questions once, not loud ones, not in public, but they spread like fire in dry grass. Why must the poor starve, while the altar overflows with gold? Why does God need silence when the people need justice? Why do only men carry the keys to heaven's doors? She had asked gently, but questions, in the wrong voice, are more dangerous than swords, and her voice was beautiful, so they buried her, not in earth, not in death, but in a room carved from sorrow and stone, a dungeon not for criminals, but for truths too sharp to hold. Anselm knows she was not the first. That corridor, lined with rusted cuffs and straw shadows, has held many. The abbey is built not just on faith, but on the bones of the disobedient. 100 prayers died in that corridor before they reached God. Perhaps God stopped listening, or perhaps he never heard them at all. Anselm returns to his cell. The walls are clean, the candle burns low, but he cannot pray. The psalms turn to ash in his throat. His fingers trace the edge of the page, but the words blur. He remembers her fingers, mirroring his just hours ago, thin, scarred, trembling, yet still moving, still writing, though nothing marked the stone. Her mind had not broken, only her body bent. He should not have touched her. Even a brush of hands can stir 100 storms. Is it Easter yet? The question haunts him, not because she forgot time, but because he had. He cannot say what month it is. The abbey has no seasons, only bells and rituals, and meals that taste of dust. Easter, resurrection, hope. Hope does not live here, not in the chanting of blind monks, not in the thick bread, not in the bloodless wine. It lingers only in the space between two fingers, touching through iron bars. It lives in the silence she fills with invisible prayers. That night, Anselm dreams. The corridor is longer in his sleep. The walls pulse like a throat, swallowing secrets. He walks barefoot. His robes are gone. The torch in his hand sputters and dies. And from every niche, from every dark cell, hands reach out, pale, thin, whispering. Is it Easter yet? He wakes before matins. The candle is out. The cold has teeth. Anselm rises without robe or sandals. He moves like a man no longer tied to duty, like a man untethered from the abbey's breath, down the same stairs, through the same corridor. The torch flares as he lifts it. The flame wavers, unsure of its purpose. She is there, always there, still kneeling, still tracing prayers with her fingertips. But tonight, her eyes are open, and they find him. She speaks, not a whisper this time, a rasp, a voice unused for years, like a gate creaking after long rust. It snowed today, she says. I could feel it. He nods, though he does not understand how. Her face is pale as frost, but her eyes burn like coal. You remember me, she says. I do, he replies. A long pause. The torch hisses. She tilts her head. Then why do you still wear their robes? He has no answer, only a silence that drips down the walls, thick as the damp. He kneels outside the bars. The cold seeps into his bones. She offers no comfort. She is no longer the girl in the orchard. She is something else now, something carved from the abbey's sin and her own fire. I bring you bread, he says, weakly. I need memory more than bread, she replies. Tell me it mattered. He looks into her eyes, and he cannot lie. It mattered, he whispers, to me. Another pause, then a smile, faint, like sunlight barely reaching a tomb. That's something, she says. He leaves her there, but not like before, not with the door shut on his soul. This time, he carries her voice with him. At the top of the stairs, dawn creeps in through the stained glass, pale blue, like her eyes once were. He doesn't speak at breakfast, nor at midday prayers, but when the bells toll sext, he does not rise. He walks into the garden again. The earth is thawing. He kneels in the dirt where she once danced, and with bare fingers, he digs, not for her body, but for the truth. Something must grow here, even if it's only a grave, even if it's only a single broken feather. A scream rises, not in defiance, but like the cracking of ice over deep water, brief, fractured, swallowed whole by stone. The raven is gone, but its shadow still clings to the bars, a mark of something watching. Above the dungeon, the sky is a pale wound. Below, in the ribs of the earth, breath and silence alternate like the slow turning of a dying clock. The boy does not move. He has learned not to. The wooden stag in his hand has grown slick with sweat, its grooves worn deeper by fingers that tremble when they think no one sees. Its eyes, two shallow indents, stare without expression. His own eyes are harder now, though still rimmed with the puff of youth and frostbite. In the 2 weeks since his arrival, his name has not been spoken, and that silence has aged him. Beside him, a man with a split lip whispers to himself, not words, just the rhythm of old prayers that long forgot their meaning. He was once a knight, they say, but now he curls around his ribs as if he can hold the pieces of himself together with breath alone. His nose has been broken, twice. No one asks how. There are no questions in the dungeon, only answers made of bruises and echo. Somewhere near the far wall, a cough becomes a rattle, a pause, then nothing. No one looks. Death has no ceremony here. A droplet falls from the ceiling, strikes the stone with a sound that could be a footstep, or a tear, or the memory of rain. The steward passes through again, limping. His horn ring clicks against his tally board. His ink is almost gone. He marks in blood now, when he must. Still he does not speak the names. To name a man is to know him. To know him is to feel his leaving. And that is too dangerous a luxury. The boy watches him go, hears the soft whisper of parchment, the rasp of breath too shallow to belong to the living. He presses the stag to his lips, not in a kiss, but as if by breathing through it, he can find his father's voice. He remembers the warmth of a calloused hand on his shoulder, a tent flap opening, snow that fell quietly over the battlefield, before the swords clashed, before the world became this narrow corridor of rot and waiting. The guard on the platform has not blinked. He is a young man, though older than the boy by some years. His face is taut with hunger, not for food, but for cruelty yet unleashed. His fingers twitch near the whip on his belt, as if it were a snake he wishes to awaken, but he does not strike. Not yet. There is something in the boy's stillness that unnerves him, something unbroken. The dungeon feeds on despair, and this boy has not yet offered enough. That will change. A door creaks at the far end. Light, faint, gold-touched, cuts across the filth. The friar enters. He sings again, a low shivering melody, shaped not for joy but for mourning. His robes are too fine for this place, white thread already stained gray by soot and mildew. He carries a bowl of holy water, sets it beside the wall. No one moves toward it. Holiness here feels like mockery, a reminder of how far the heavens are. The night whispers louder, lips cracking. Kyrie Ellison, Kyrie Ellison. The friar pauses, looks at him, but does not kneel. No one kneels in the dungeon. Even humility rots. Given time, he dips his fingers into the bowl and flings droplets across the room. A few hiss where they strike open wounds. One prisoner screams, not in pain, but in hatred. He lunges against his chains, teeth bared, eyes wild. His wrist snaps audibly, bone forced where flesh cannot bend. He collapses. The friar leaves without a word. Outside, snow begins again. It filters through the grate in soft spirals, settling on skin that no longer feels, on lips that will not speak. The bucket descends again, empty. The men do not move. The weight of waiting is heavier than hunger, heavier than the chains. The boy studies the snowflakes, watches them melt on his palm. For a moment, they shine like stars, and then, nothing. The night beside him dies that night. He does not scream. His last sound is a breath, caught halfway between a sob and a prayer. His body slumps forward, resting against the iron ring that tethered him to the wall. The boy does not look away. He wants to remember, not out of pity, but because forgetting is too easy, too safe. He is afraid of becoming like the others, shadows in flesh, waiting only for silence. At dawn, the steward comes. He does not record the death. He merely gestures, and two guards drag the body toward the darkness beyond the far corridor, the one none return from. The knight's broken lip catches on the floor, painting a line behind him, like a signature. The bucket comes again. This time, it carries something else. A letter, folded. The boy's heart stirs. The guards do not notice it fall. He reaches out, slow as if moving through water, and draws it close. It is damp, the ink blurred, but legible. It is not addressed to him. Still, he reads, "To my brother, if this ever finds you, I am not the man who left. War changed me. I see now the cost of pride, of banners. I see now that every flag was stitched with blood. If I live, I will come home with no sword. If I die, bury me without one." He folds it again, hides it within his tunic. Another scream. This one is his. It breaks from him without warning. A sob turned sharp, like metal against metal. He covers his face, ashamed. But it is too late. The guard with the whip moves. He descends. Boots echo on the stairs. But he does not strike. He crouches in front of the boy, curious. "You miss your home, boy." The boy doesn't speak. You think someone will come. Still, silence. The guard leans close. His breath smells of onions and old wine. They don't. No one comes. No one remembers. Not down here. He straightens. But as he turns, he does something strange. He drops something beside the boy. A crust of bread. Cold, moldrimmed, but bread. Then, without a word, he climbs back to his perch. The boy does not eat it. Not yet. He clutches the letter, and the stag, and somewhere deep in him, a vow takes shape, not of vengeance, not of escape, but of memory. He will remember every face, every name not spoken, every body dragged away without honor, and if he survives this place, he will carry them all, one breath at a time. Above, the raven returns. It circles once, and the snow falls faster, like ashes from something sacred burned long ago. In the distance, faint, but growing louder, a bell tolls, not for the dead, but for someone coming, and the dungeon waits. Dust rises in ribbons from the stone floor, curling through shafts of flickering torchlight like smoke from an unseen pyre. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of iron, old sweat, and something fainter still, like forgotten prayers left to rot. Somewhere above, bells toll for mass, but their chimes do not carry salvation. Here in the deep, the sound reaches like a ghost's breath, warped and drowned by stone, as though each note mourns a soul already lost. He kneels. Once, they called him Lord Elaric of Valtoria, the wine-blooded baron, whose crest adorned treaties, and whose court settled land disputes across 3 valleys. Now he is a shadow in filth. His crimson tunic clings damply to his skin, darkened like a wound that never closed. His beard is crusted with blood and mold. His fingers tremble, gripping what remains of the world he once ruled, a broken crest, snapped from his ring, hidden for days in the arch of his boot, and now rubbed smooth by prayers that never reached heaven. The cell doesn't speak, but it watches. Each stone a witness, each chain a scribe. Every evening the interrogator descends. He never speaks. His silence is more intimate than words. He unwraps his tools like relics, rusted wedges, leather straps, metal tongs worn smooth at the edges. But these instruments are not for confession. Pain, after all, is manageable, predictable. It's the past that devours him. Alaric dreams now with open eyes, whispers into the straw. His lips shape a single name, Isolde, again and again, as if repetition might resurrect her voice, or send a tremor through the stone that carries his whisper to her distant chamber. But the stones do not speak back. One morning, they bring in a girl. She is young, perhaps 15, a novice. Her veil is gone. Her eyes dart like a bird's, wild but not broken. Her ankles are ringed with bruises, like ink drawings of shackles not yet removed. The guards drag her past Alaric's cell. Then she sees him. She freezes. He looks up, just once. Their eyes meet through rusted bars, through shadows and years. Recognition flares like a match in a rainstorm. He nods, almost imperceptibly. She does too. No tears, no words. Then she is chained 2 cells down. In that instant, something shifts. She is alive. They did not break her. That night, Alaric does not whisper her name into the straw. He carves it instead, letter by letter, into the wall with a sliver of bone pried from a rat-picked joint. He carves not Isolde, but the name she now bears in secret. The one he whispered in fairy tales when she was a child, curled beside the hearth. Vela. He leaves it for her. Not as a message, but as proof that she was here, that she resisted. The jailer hums as he cleans the cuffs. They say he bit off his own fingers during the siege of Barlin. Keep rather than yield a gate key. 2 are missing now. The bones never grew back, but he wears the stumps like medals. He speaks only in gesture. His favorite is silence, held like a blade just beneath the throat. Rain lashes the stones above. A lantern swings gently in the corridor, casting long, uncertain shadows. The wind slithers through cracks in the stairs, wailing like a beast denied its prey. A pool forms near the steps, thin and shimmering, reflecting the flames in halos that waver, like saints losing shape. Somewhere, someone screams. But the dungeon does not echo screams. It consumes them. The days bleed into each other. Time folds like damp parchment. The girl hums now, softly, sometimes in sleep. Alaric listens. He maps her songs against the days, against the flicker of the torchbearer's shift, against the taste of mildew that thickens when storms gather. They are not speaking, but they are remembering together. She does not cry, not once. On the 6th day the interrogator visits her. He enters with 2 guards. The chains rattle. The cell door groans. Then silence. Long, long silence. Alaric presses his forehead to the cold stone, listening for breath. A minute passes. Then 2. Then a voice. It is not the interrogator's. It is hers. Soft, firm, clear. No. A chain tightens. A slap. Then silence, again. But the silence is different now. It's not submission. It's defiance. Alaric feels something rise in his throat. Not pride. Not grief. Something older. Something rooted in fathers who buried sons in mud and women who sang as flames took their cities. That night, he does not sleep. He watches the torchlight fade, watches the water rise. He thinks of the vineyard slope in spring, when the first frost breaks and the soil smells of rain and rebirth. He sees her there, small hands brushing frost from the roots, hair tangled in wind, asking about the stars. He had promised her she could name one. Now he carves a star beside her name. The jailer sees it the next morning. He says nothing, only smiles, with a mouth that never reaches the eyes. He leaves the shackles hanging like ornaments and drips vinegar on the floor, watching it slither toward the carved stone. 2 days later, the girl is gone. Her cell is empty. No blood, no sign of struggle, just her rosary left behind, looped over a nail in the wall. The cross has been snapped. Deliberately, Alaric does not ask where she went. He knows, the dungeon does not release, it devours. He kneels again, This time, he does not pray. He sharpens the bone shard, not for violence, for memory. He begins a second carving, a new name, one not yet spoken aloud, one for the next voice to echo down these halls. He carves slow, deliberate, every curve a promise. We were here, we remembered. Above, the bells toll again. They do not call for mass, they call for mourning. And below, the dungeon breeze, quiet, eternal, waiting. A scream, short and sharp, slices the early dawn like a knife through cloth. Then silence, then the sound of rats. The stones sweat in the damp breath of the dungeon. Time does not pass here, it curdles. Mold creeps like slow fire across the ceiling, dripping into bowls of old blood and rainwater. Beneath the monastery, beneath the chanting prayers and candlelit halls, lies a world unblessed and unloved, a world God forgot, or never dared to claim. The woman does not scream again, her back curls like a question mark on the straw. Her name is no longer spoken, not by the novices, not by the guards, not even by herself. The lavender in her palm, brittle now, is her last anchor. Its scent, faint but stubborn, pushes against the rot. She presses it to her chest, as if it might ward off what morning brings. She once danced barefoot, in orchard grass, once sang lullabies over a cradle, but now the cold stone drinks her voice. In her mind, she traces the worn soles of the shoes she once stitched, trying to remember each face that wore them. Perhaps one now kneels in church above her, perhaps one holds the torch that will burn her. In the neighboring cell, the Breton hum grows softer, a lullaby, or a dirge, it's hard to tell. His voice no longer seeks escape, only echo. He sings not to be heard, but so the silence doesn't swallow him whole. The young guard returns, his breath fogging in the lantern light. The crust in his hand is misshapen, soft at the heart. He slips it through the hatch, with a glance he tries to disguise. He should not care. He knows this. Mercy is a dangerous fragrance, stronger even than lavender. He lingers too long. Did she speak? A voice asks behind him, older, brittle as parchment, belonging to the steward who walks like his robe was tailored from bone. The young guard stiffens. No, he lies. The steward says nothing, just walks on, his sandals whispering over stone like dry leaves in windless air. The woman eats slowly, teeth aching from cold and time. Her eyes do not leave the candle stub in the wall, watching the way it sways, the way it weakens. Tomorrow it will be gone. Above in the chapel, bells toll. Below, a chain clinks. The priest comes with dawn. His eyes are like burnt-out lanterns, hollow, flickering only with duty. His fingers smell of ash and rosewater, and they do not tremble when they hold the tools. A cup, a rope, a nail. He asks again, "Why did you curse the miller's boy?" Her voice is not a scream. It is quieter than the rats. "I did not." The priest nods. He already knows what she will say. It is not her words he waits for, but the breaking. They leave her alone again. In the dark, she touches the lavender to her lips. The dreams return. Not dreams, really. Memories curled into shadow. Her husband's smile, crooked, like a cartwheel. Her son's voice calling for bread. The way flour dust clung to every surface, even joy. She whispers their names to the stone. The stone does not answer. Later, the Breton man speaks. "They won't kill you today." She startles. It's the first time he's spoken to her. "Why?" she asks, voice hoarse. "They don't want you dying before the feast day." "Bad omen," he chuckles. It sounds like gravel and grief. "They'll wait." He is wrong. She knows it. Knows the look in the steward's eye, the hush in the novice's pace, the way the guard clenched his jaw when she didn't scream. They are running out of patience, running out of ways to explain why she still breathes. And yet she holds the lavender. Its scent is softer now, but not gone. Not yet. That night, the young guard returns. He does not bring bread, only stands there. "I'm sorry," he whispers. She meets his eyes. There is something of her son in him, or something she wants to believe is there. "Then remember me," she says. He nods once. "What is your name?" She tells him, a whisper, delicate as thread. He repeats it, like a prayer. The next morning, she is gone. Her cell is empty. The straw, disturbed. The lavender crushed. The steward says nothing. The priest crosses himself. The Breton sings louder, but in the chapel above, someone lights a candle, not for a witch, for a mother, for the smell of bread and summer, and in the novice's sleeve, tucked away like contraband, is a single sprig of lavender. Somewhere, something small begins to bloom, and in the next cell over, the Breton begins a new verse, not the old lullaby, something else, a tune that sounds like sun on stone, like rebellion, like memory returning. The rats pause to listen, and far above, beyond monastery walls, the wind begins to change. The stone is colder here, colder than outside, colder than graveyards. It doesn't just press against the skin, it enters, like a secret you were never meant to carry, like guilt that will not warm, no matter how many years pass. They say this dungeon was the dream of a mad king, a place built not to hold men, but to erase them, to swallow their names, their deeds, their bloodlines, to bury them so deep that not even the worms would feed, and somehow, he succeeded. A single chain shifts, metal to stone. It echoes like a whisper through the long corridors. A man has moved, barely, thin as famine, pale as moonlight, dying on a snowbank. He cradles a scroll in trembling hands, its edges rot beneath his fingers, the ink a faint ghost of ownership and borders, a charter, land once his. Now only the lice speak his name, and even they do not say it kindly. He doesn't speak much, not anymore, but he stares sometimes, not at the guards, not at the rats, but at a small boy in the corner, mute, ageless. He appeared in the cell one day, and simply never left. No one brought him. No one claimed him. He simply was. He draws in the dirt with one finger, tiny, careful movements, birds with crooked wings, stars, though he's never seen one, a boat, though there is no water here. Once, he tried to draw a door, but when it wouldn't open, he cried. They had to take the stone away from him, that night, not because he was loud, he wasn't, but because grief here is contagious. Far down the corridor, every midnight, footsteps rise, soft measured, no lantern, no keys, only a voice, and it speaks in Latin. A priest, they say, though no one has seen his face. His prayers are low and toneless, like the drone of a beehive starved of summer. He does not pause, he does not look in, he simply walks, and murmurs, and vanishes. He might be real, he might be dead, but he is the only voice that does not accuse, the only voice that does not want to break something. So they listen, even the ones who once killed for gold, even the ones who still taste their last betrayal on the tongue. They listen, because in the absence of mercy, rhythm becomes a form of salvation. In a side chamber carved into the wall, an executioner waits. His blade is always clean. He sharpens it with care, not urgency, as if he too is waiting for something worthy of its edge. He does not speak to the prisoners. He does not even look at them. He looks only at steel. He oils it with animal fat. It shines like judgment, cold, ready, final. Sometimes, the man with the scroll watches him through a slit in the stone. He imagines what his death will sound like. He wonders if it will be quick. He wonders if the boy will cry again. Tonight, the scroll tears as he holds it. Not a clean tear, just crumble, a slow decay like leaves forgotten in winter. He kisses it, once, gently, as if saying farewell to a country that no longer remembers him. Then he lets it fall. The boy picks it up. His hands are small and filthy. He can't read the words. They're too faded, too foreign, but he holds it like a relic, as if this too is scripture, and maybe, to him, it is. A sudden wind slides through the dungeon, sharp, icy. No door opened, no torch moved, but every prisoner felt it. They sat straighter, they stopped their scratching, they closed their eyes, because that wind meant something. Above, the world moved on. A fire was lit, a gate creaked, a raven landed on a castle spire. Up there, life; down here, memory. And what a cruel thing memory is in this place. It does not fade, it festers, it grows teeth. One man remembers the scream of his daughter as they pulled him away. Another remembers the scent of bread from a stall near the church where he once sang. The mute boy, no one knows what he remembers, only that when he draws a mother's face in the dirt, he does not smile. The priest's chant grows distant now, swallowed by the stone. The executioner stops sharpening for a moment, just a moment, as if he too heard something that did not belong. The scroll sits between the man and the boy now. They both stare at it, one with sorrow, one with wonder. Neither of them speaks. In this place, words are heavy, they cost too much. The rats have stopped moving. The air smells of iron and moss, and silence stretches its long pale limbs. What are they waiting for? A pardon, a rebellion, an earthquake, or perhaps, nothing. Perhaps they are only waiting because it is the only thing left to do. Because as long as you wait, something still might happen. And as long as something might happen, you are not yet gone. A drip falls from the ceiling. It lands in a shallow pool, a pool that has no memory of sun. It ripples outward, touching nothing but itself. The boy draws a sun, a round one this time. He gives it lines, like rays, but he draws it beneath the ground. He draws it in the dirt between his knees, and for a moment, just a moment, the man closes his eyes, and sees light. Not the torchlight, not the light of steel, but the light that used to live in fields, on banners, in eyes. He sees it, then it's gone, still breathing, still remembering, still waiting, but somewhere above, a torch is being lit, a gate is being opened, a raven lifts from the spire. The story is not over, not yet.